Okay, we are streaming live via YouTube. The next case on the calendar is the State of Georgia versus Avante Javar Meredith for warrant number 2022 WA18792, violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act. The state is represented by ADA Cheryl Freeman, and the defendant, Mr. Meredith, is represented by Attorney Rogers. Is the state ready to call the first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. State calls Officer Waldron. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony about to provide in the matter of State of Georgia versus Avante Meredith will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Swear and affirm.
Now you can lower your hand. Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
I am Officer Jay Waldron. I'm employed with the Clayton County Police Department as an officer.
How long have you worked with the Clayton County Police Department?
I believe it's 4 years and change.
Officer Waldron, on December 9th of 2022, did you respond to 2940 Anvil Block Road in Ellenwood, Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a Walmart?
Yes, ma'am.
When you arrived at the Walmart, who did you meet with?
I met with Walmart overnight manager, Mr. Gresham.
Why did Mr. Gresham tell you that happened?
He advised me that Mr. Avante Meredith was in Walmart causing a scene and making the customers and employees uncomfortable, that he had a history of having a gun on him, and that they wanted to criminal trespass warn him from the location.
Was Mr. Meredith still at the Walmart when you got there?
No, he relocated to the gas station across the street.
Were you able to speak with Mr. Meredith when at the gas station across the street?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did Mr. Meredith tell you about what happened in Walmart?
Mr. Meredith was convinced that nothing really happened at the Walmart. When asked if he had any weapons on him, he was very confident that he did not have any weapons on him. And he allowed PD to search him.
What, if anything, did you locate on Mr. Meredith from the search?
We found a Rice Krispie treat wrapped up in plastic paper wrapping that was tested for THC.
What were the results for that test?
Came back positive for THC.
Was Mr. Meredith eventually issued the criminal trespass warning?
Yes, Mr. Meredith was immediately detained after finding the THC, and we relocated him to the Walmart where the store manager, overnight manager, CT'd him from the property.
Did Mr. Meredith make any statements regarding the THC that was found?
After the THC was found, he admitted to it being a weed Rice Krispie treat, but he advised that it was not of substantial amount. We should be able to throw it out.
Was that statement on your body cam?
Yes, ma'am. He screamed it multiple times, even while in custody.
Did this happen in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Attorney Rogers, your witness.
Thank you. Officer Waldron, are you the lead officer on this case?
Yes, sir.
Were you the only one responding, or there other officers with you?
There were several other officers on scene.
Just to tighten it up, when we say on scene, are you referring? Do you have the Walmart in mind or the gas station?
Several other officers responded to the gas station, but it was only me that relocated to the Walmart.
And just to tighten it up, when we say relocate, we're talking about once you made contact with Mr. Meredith.
Yes, sir.
And just so I'm clear, so it's strictly a criminal trespass warning, like he's not alleged to have violated a warning at that point, correct?
Yes, sir.
And everything that was discussed on direct, basically your entire encounter with Mr. Meredith, is that all captured on a body cam?
Yes, sir.
And so once you, I guess, make contact with Mr. Meredith at the gas station, I know you say you asked him about weapons, he denies having no weapons, and then you say he allowed you to search.
Mhm.
At that point, the only thing that's been discussed is the possibility of weapons. Is that correct?
Mhm.
So when the search is agreed to, that's what we're talking about. At that
Mhm.
point. And so let me ask, when we say a search, are we talking Terry Pat, like outside, or are we going in pockets? What do we put away?
When he advised that we were allowed to search him, we checked his pockets as well as his person.
And then so at some point you see and I think I've seen Fruit Pebbles or Rice Krispies mentioned. So
It
what
was,
is it?
it was like the Fruity Pebbles, like you know how you get the Fruity Pebbles. It was a Fruity Pebbles kind of Rice Krispie treat, and it was wrapped in like a styrofoam paper, kind of.
And so when you pull out the Rice Krispie treat, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's pretty obvious that's not a weapon, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you see it, is there anything, I mean, that is, like, is it marked like, hey, we treat or anything like that?
I place it on the hood of the car and I go on with just checking for everything else. I determine that there's no weapons on him. And he advises me that it's just a weed Rice Krispie treat to relax himself.
Just so I want to tighten that part up. So you're saying he just spontaneously utters that part, or y'all having a
He
conversation?
spontaneously utters that part, and I pay no mind of it until it's tested on scene. I was just trying to make sure that he has nothing on him and that it's perfectly safe for me and him.
And so the first mention of it being a weed treat is you're saying comes from Mr. Meredith?
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this: the test that you use, what's the name of the test? I guess because that's news to me. Number one, what's the name of the test?
I am not aware of the name of the test. While I was on scene, there were several other officers that was on scene with me. One of the officers had the test with them. I don't recall what the name of the test was.
And I just want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding. You're saying that this is a field test
It's
to
a field
test
for
this
THC.
item for. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You was about to say.
Yep. It was a field test, a test for THC.
What's that process like? What do y'all do to it?
You take a piece of it and you break it off into the test. And after a certain amount of time, the test shows a color to indicate THC marijuana.
Did you say what color? You said it changes color.
It changes color to indicate THC marijuana.
What color does it change to?
I don't recall what color it changes to. It's a rapid field test.
Did you personally perform the test, or did somebody else do it?
Somebody else on team did the test for me while I was talking to Mr. Mayor.
You know how long y'all been using that?
I'm not aware how long the department or people in the department have been using that test, but it was taken into evidence to be tested by GBI.
You know anything about the accuracy rate of the test?
No, sir.
And then I guess conversely, but not to assume anything about the false positive rate.
No, sir.
Does it tell you, or does it at least allegedly tell you how much THC is supposed to be in the item?
No, sir.
And just to kind of tighten that up, like as far as like any kind of percentage by weight or anything like that.
No, sir.
And so the charge rests strictly on what somebody told you were the results of that test. Is that correct?
Rest on the results of the test and your client repeatedly admitting to it being what it was multiple times.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When y'all are talking about it and he's saying weed, is he using the phrase THC or telling you an amount or anything like that?
He said it's a little weed treat.
Right. So I just want to make sure I don't want to assume. I'm just saying he's not saying THC. Like I know there's sometimes,
he's saying it completely boldly of what it is multiple times. He's not using the word THC.
Okay. No further questions at this time.
Okay, any redirect, 88 Freeman?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Okay, any witnesses for the defense, Attorney Rogers?
No, ma'am, just argument.
Okay, 88 Freeman?
No, Your Honor, the state rests and we waive opening.
Okay, Attorney Rogers.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of things I'll say about this. Number one, the reason I asked all those questions about the THC level is that currently in the state of Georgia, let's be clear, cannabis is a plant. Marijuana is a made-up name for the plant, but it can also be called hemp. Currently, hemp is legal under 223-3 in OCGA. That would be cannabis plants or products that have a THC level less than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. And that's why I asked, does it indicate to you how much THC is in there? Because if it's telling you that there's 0.1% THC in there, if it's going to come back and tell you that, that's not sufficient to establish that is a violation of the law for those purposes. It very well may be a lawful amount. Additionally, we don't know anything. We don't know the name of this test, how long it's been used, on the accuracy rate, false positive rate. This officer didn't even do the test. We don't know what color it changes. We don't know anything about it. The fact that Mr. Meredith is saying it's a weed treat or whatever the alleged phrasing is, it doesn't really establish it, because if we were going to go by what the defendant said, then we would have less defendants. When they say that we don't have drugs, the police don't just take their word for it and leave them alone. But anytime they say something convenient, now we take that word and use that, and we don't have to worry about whether or not this test is legit or not. I would say at this point, saying that saying weed does not define a THC level. It's just a slang term. It's not a lawful term. It's not a term of art that establishes how much THC is in something. That at this point, we don't have a basis to establish probable cause. Maybe once the test comes back from GBI, I say we've gotten closer to a basis to allege that there's even any THC in here. But at this point, I don't know that we've established any basis to allege that it's a violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. So all that said, the court dismissed for lack of probable cause. Thank you.
Okay, ADA Freeman.
Thank you, Judge. We're asking that the one charge be bound over to Superior Court. A lot of the things that Attorney Rogers brings up regarding the accuracy of the test, the false positive or the negative, whatever issues that he has with it, those will certainly be questions, not at this level, but certainly in Superior Court. Officer Waldron testified that the item was field tested. It came back positive for the THC. You know, he is not a chemist or a scientist, so no, he's not going to have the answers to the different questions regarding the actual test, but there's a test that law enforcement officers used. They didn't have to rely on Mr. Meredith saying it was a weed treat, even though he repeatedly yelled it out. They didn't have to rely on that. They relied on the test that came back positive. So based on that, Your Honor, we are asking that the one charge be bound over to Superior Court.
Based upon the evidence and testimony of the witness. I do find sufficient probable cause to bind over the charge to the Superior Court of Clayton County for violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act. That will be the order of the court, and that will conclude the preliminary hearing for Mr. Meredith.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, both parties for their presentation of the case.